Tonight in CVM News at 7, the global fallout, comprehensive coverage of the US-Israel-Iran war and impact on Jamaica and the region. Withdraw it. 5 civil society groups condemn security minister's blood money remark. And judiciary mourns passing of senior parish court judge. In our Small Biz Big Dreams feature, dreams success through self-care, the story of MJ Body Concept and Spa. And later on in sports, Windies cricket team stuck in India due to ongoing Middle East conflict. From Kingston, Jamaica, this is CVM News at 7 for Monday, March 2, 2026. I'm Nika Lewis. Thanks for joining us. Jamaicans Rovman Powell and Brandon King are among West Indies players stuck in India due to airspace restrictions as the escalating war with US, Israel and Iran threatens global instability. More on that in sports, but first, amid the rising death toll, oil prices continue to surge and there are growing concerns Jamaicans could begin to see a spike in fuel prices in a matter of days as the conflict intensifies. Economists are warning it's time for the government and regional leaders to go back to the drawing board. Amoy Harriet begins our team coverage.
In the days leading up to the February 28 strikes, Brent crude was trading around $71 to $72 per barrel. Mere days after the strikes, prices jumped up to $82 per barrel. And by all indications, experts say the increase won't stop there.
Yeah, oil prices will definitely escalate. In the worst case scenario, it could exceed $100 per barrel. And that would have several implications for Jamaica.
Now, for context, about 20% of the world's oil supply is shipped through the Strait of Hormuz, a narrow channel between Iran and Oman that's critical for oil going from Gulf producers like Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, Iraq, the UAE, to markets around the world. The ongoing strikes now threaten to disrupt that shipping route, and that threat alone pushes global oil prices up. The implications economist Keenan Faulkner mentioned earlier are that rising oil prices could force the government to rethink the national budget.
It just means that the government has to do a few tweaks, and not really wholesale changes in terms of what the revenues and expenditure profiles might have to be. It's just that you use oil prices as well as inflation as assumptions that underlie what your revenue and expenditure profile might look like. So, it's just about changing what those numbers might be and changing essentially what some of the forecasts might look like.
He says there may also need to be a recalibration of monetary policy.
Inflation now being higher than initially forecast when the bank projected it to be within the range for the rest of 2026 may mean possibly a reversal of the recent stance which caused monetary policy and interest rates to loosen. So it has multidimensional effects. Also added to the fact that as a small island developing state, Jamaica is heavily import dependent. And most of that imported inflation that we experience is from food and fuel.
And Jamaica isn't the only country that stands to be affected. Economist Professor Andre Houghton is warning that it's now time for regional governments to go back to the drawing board. He adds that, quote, the globe is now at threat for World War III, and the Caribbean is learning a harsh lesson.
Our leaders must recognize that we do not live in isolation, and as a result, we have to revisit these CARICOM agreements as it relates to the movement of goods, the movement of people, and the movement of finance, because we have to now recognize, what does Jamaica have that Trinidad needs? What does Trinidad have or Guyana have that Jamaica needs? What does Barbados need? And then we put these needs on a table and see how can we satisfy these needs within the regional bloc first, so that this out of region events have less negative effect on us.
Amoy Harriet for CVM News.
Meanwhile, Qatar's state-owned energy giant Qatar Energy has halted all liquefied natural gas production after Iranian drone strikes damaged key facilities in Ras Laffan and Mesaid. The company says operations have ceased immediately, sending shockwaves through global energy markets. Natural gas futures in Europe spiked nearly 50%, while Brent crude jumped 8% on the day. Iran's attacks come as retaliation for U.S. and Israeli strikes over the weekend, escalating tensions across the region. Qatar is one of the world's top LNG suppliers, with major customers in Asia and Europe. Tonight, the shutdown raises urgent questions about energy security worldwide. With more, here's Al Jazeera.
This conflict now will almost certainly have global ramifications. The energy sector in this part of the world, Qatar with its liquid natural gas, Saudi with its massive oil exports, really every country in this region is in some way intrinsic to the global energy market. The Strait of Hormuz, of course, 20% of the world's energy goes through that strait. That is in peril now. This is the moment. 3 days into this conflict, it was already a certainty that this would have some kind of ramifications, but the global ramifications that will be felt by people all over the world when they're fueling their cars, when they're beginning to pay their bills, we can mark this as the moment where that begins.
So what is life like in the war zone? We're now joined on Zoom by Chris Watts in Lebanon. He's a British national and the founder of Future Academy, an education, sporting and digital academy for Palestinian refugee and stateless children, a charity based in Beirut. For context, Israeli strikes have killed at least 52 people in Lebanon today. Chris, welcome to CVM News.
Thank you for having me. One love, Jamaica.
Indeed. Well, it's a little after 2 a.m. in Lebanon now. So describe what Monday was like with all that took place there.
There were bombs. The bombs aren't the worst, though. The worst are the drones. They're constant and they're in between the clouds. So you can't see them, but you know that they're there. The sight of families leaving their homes in cars with their possessions tied to the top of their cars is a sight that's very hard to forget. What Israel normally does is they tweet in Arabic to give warning that a certain street or building is going to be bombed. The average time between the tweet being posted and the bomb landing is about 9 minutes. And I think we can all agree that that is not enough time to pack up your house and leave. There's a constant fear of silence in Lebanon. When there's not much happening, you know that something's being planned. We were at war with Israel in 2024. A ceasefire was signed in November of that year, and since then, Israel has violated the ceasefire 13,000 times, which is double the amount of times that Donald Trump featured in the files. I think we can all agree that even those numbers are far too big. The people in the Middle East are suffering because the politicians are trying to show off. It's reached a very dangerous point in the Middle East now, where there are three major players: Iran, America, and Israel. Iran has been seen as a pariah from the Western world for a couple of generations now. And the two things that Israel and America definitely will not accept are Iran's nuclear program continuing and them continuing to fund proxy groups to fight wars on their behalf around the region. Examples of which would be Hamas, the Houthis in Yemen, and Hezbollah in Lebanon. The advantage for Iran of funding proxy groups is it gives them plausible deniability, so they can fight their battles without having to admit that it's actually them. However, the Middle East is now in the middle of the biggest crisis of my lifetime, and the three people who are in charge, Netanyahu, Trump, and the Iranian leadership, are all hardliners in some way. I would describe them as the opposite of reggae music.
Chris,
not chilled, not cool.
You touched reggae music, and I just really want to squeeze this one in, because how are foreigners and tourists, especially people from places like Jamaica and the Caribbean, coping with what's been happening there?
I think that coping is the best word. War is not life. It's a type of living where you are just trying not to die. And music is one of the things that disappears first. Truth is another one, always a casualty of war. I think people from the Caribbean would find it even harder than the local people here because of the lack of freedom of expression. It's difficult to play music when there are bombs outside.
Understandable. Thank you so much, Chris Watts. He is a British national and the founder of Future Academy, an education, sporting and digital academy for Palestinian and refugees and stateless children. It's a charity based in Beirut. We'll be following up more with you, Chris, in the coming days. Do stay safe. But joining us now for a further breakdown is economist Janelle McEwen. Welcome, Janelle. All right. Right. Thank you so much. So you are urging Jamaicans to fuel up because markets are in chaos and this is hitting our pumps hard indeed. How can that happen? You know, how did this all happen so suddenly? And how can this happen suddenly?
So I think context here that recently we would have heard that reports are circulating that the Strait of Hormuz has been closed. And to put into context, approximately 20 million barrels of oil travel through that strait each day. So oil from the Arab Emirates, Saudi, Qatar, and all those countries supply approximately 1/5 global supply of oil. So because the strait is closed now, and Iran has recently stated that any that passes or try to pass through, they're going to attack it. So what we would have seen is of recent, what we call the Brent oil raise. The price is moving from low 70s, high 70s, and low 80s currently in the 2 days. So if this war continues for another 4 weeks, as the President of the United States would have stated, I think we will see a significant impact in our local markets because we import all our fuel, right? And when we have oil prices, impact would normally show here locally.
I hope that's not an indication that you're frozen. Are you still with me?
Yes, I'm here. Are you hearing me?
Yes, I'm hearing you now. So you say that there is then likely broader ripples to come from this international crisis. Would you like to expound on that a little more?
Right. So what will happen is that, because again, as I stated, that we trade all of our fuel. So when the Strait of Hormuz closed, which would have declared since evening, what happened is that approximately 20 million barrels of oil that passes through daily will now stop flowing. So the global market will react to that. And what will happen is that you will see the prices of oil start to trading higher. And what that means is that people will start to be more difficult for us to have access to oil And oftentimes when these situations happen, we see the adjustment in the fuel market in a couple of days. So I would have implored Jamaicans to start refueling on a daily basis to kind of avoid or be a little bit more proactive because of what's coming. The President of the United States would have stated that they're expecting to prolong this war for 4 weeks, so we might in for a long ride.
And long ride indeed, because we're looking now at some potential long-term fallouts if this war drags on. What are some of those?
Right, so we have to be a unified in terms of Latin America and the Caribbean now, because we have to see what is it that we have and have a comparative advantage in, and what we can trade with and revisit trade negotiations with countries like Guyana, for example, and countries that supply us with a lot of crude oil. So if these continue to follow, what we may see is that, for example, the United Arab Emirates, Qatar, Kuwait, because these countries would have been dragged in the war because the United States have military bases in these countries. They were attacked by Iran and they supply a large portion of oil. So if this continues, we may see these countries who are getting bombed indirectly will join the war, and this could even prolong for more than 4 weeks, as the president would have stated. And what may happen is that from an economic standpoint, that may affect or import significantly, and not just as it relates to oil, but it may impact a lot of things that we import from all over the world. And US being a major player and they're investing a lot in this war, we may see some ripple effects on the import side and things getting more expensive with authority.
Well, all right. Thank you so much, Janelle McEwen, economist. We will take a break, but we'll have more CVM News at 7 right after.
Is Civil Servants Week at Quartz Optical, Lucky Dollar, and Ashley Furniture Home Store. All civil servants will get 40% off credit purchases on 24 to 48 months at Quartz, Lucky Dollar, and Ashley, and 40% off frames on credit purchases 12 to 24 months at Quartz Optical. You don't want to miss out on this massive offer. It's Civil Servants Week at Quartz Optical, Lucky Dollar, and Ashley Furniture Home Store, March 1 to 7, with 40% off credit purchases. Conditions apply.
Let's delve deep into the issues. We'll take you beneath the surface.
Greetings and salutations. My name is Orvin Higgins, and it's another edition of Fan Central.
Talking to the people at the heart of the top sporting stories. Hear from your favorite sportsmen and women and the administrators who work tirelessly to make it all happen. It's live sports talk.
I've written an entire article.
Yeah.
Looking at all the major issues every Tuesday at 9 p.m. It's Fan Central.
Thanks so much for staying with us. Civil society organizations are forcefully rejecting comments made by Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of National Security and Peace, Dr. Horace Chang, which they say misrepresent their funding and threaten democratic space in Jamaica. In a joint statement, the groups describe references to blood money as inaccurate and inflammatory. Akeem Arit reports.
A group of 5 civil society organizations are pushing back against comments made by Deputy Prime Minister and the Minister of National Security Dr. Horace Chang, describing his remarks about so-called blood money as dangerous and misleading. The organizations, in a joint statement on Monday, say the comments threaten democratic participation and undermine the role of civil society in national development. Dr. Gavin Myers, who heads National Integrity Action, one of the 5 groups, says Dr. Chang's comment makes threats already issued to civil society members worse.
Persons who have worked with us in civil society have spoken about threats to their physical person. They've spoken to threats that the organizations that they've worked with have faced, and some of them have even had to withdraw from working in communities because of the type of space that we work in. Even more than that, there have been health impact, and there have been even been persons who have been threatened with sexual violence because of their work. So we're saying that this is a type of thing that whatever Minister Chang had wanted to say, his position in it has made the work that we do even more difficult.
The organizations insist that civil society plays a critical role in safeguarding citizens' rights, holding government accountable, and supporting democratic governance. They also rejected claims surrounding their funding, noting that civil society organizations like the government of Jamaica receive grants from international development partners to carry out projects that directly benefits communities and, in many cases, assist the state in meeting its obligations.
Whilst Mr. Chang is within his rights to think whatever he wants, it is wrong to assert that we are doing anything illegal, and would also point out that we are supported by the laws, and our organizations are audited and managed, and we report to the Department for Friendly and Corporate Societies, we report to the Companies Office of Jamaica, and to our respective partners on what it is that we do and where our funding sources are.
While acknowledging that civil society organizations welcome criticism, Dr. Myers notes slanderous statements have to be rejected.
Successive administrations, whether JLP and PNP, have lived up to their constitutional obligations to protect freedom of association, freedom of conscience, and freedom of expression. And we know and we welcome that as Jamaicans we can speak freely. But what we don't want is people to speak in such a way that would be negative to us. And then even more, what we don't want is someone to say things that are untrue and for other people to hear it and go further than just hearing it.
The groups are continuing to make their call for Security Minister Horace Chang to withdraw his statement.
I ask the Minister Chang that to reconsider what he's saying, because it is not in keeping with the facts and it's out of where it should be.
Akeem Oret for CVM News.
Meanwhile, as the nation's parliament considers amendments to the Child Diversion Act, stakeholders are lamenting the potential loopholes that could see more harm being done to minors than good on account of gangs exploiting the system. Despite their good intentions and referrals by the police and the courts to the program, experts warn there's still work to be done. More than 2,000 cases have been referred to the Child Diversion Program between March 2020 and early 2026. But despite those figures, Director of Public Law, Restorative and Preventative Justice, Julia Moncrief-Wigan, assures more could be had.
And from March 2020 to January 2026, approximately 2,810 cases were referred for diversion. Of that number, 1,143 children successfully completed the child diversion program. So what you're seeing, just by a rough estimation, is a less than 50%, under 50% success rate, but it is an excellent reflection of the program. It is a program that requires a deeper engagement and awareness.
And that's just from police and court referrals. As it pertains to sexual offences involving minors, whether as victims or perpetrators, the ministry notes just under 500 such matters have been referred during the period.
So if a matter is referred to child diversion, it first has to, for a rape, for example, it's not on the schedule, so it would have to be from the court. So the court would have to determine, in the interest of justice and in the best interest of this child, if this matter can be referred to child diversion. However, the victim has to consent because they have a right to redress. So it's not a case where the matter is sent to child diversion without the victim's consent. So in those instances, the victim consents and the offender accepts responsibility for the offense. And if the court sees fit to send the matter, it is accepted for treatment by the child diversion branch.
Close-in-age relations or minors involved in sexual activities remains one of the contentious aspects of the law now under consideration. Yet Senator Shireen Golding explains making the willing intimate activities of teens a crime was never the intention when the act was initially drafted.
The intent of the then legislators was never to criminalize for quote-unquote consensual sex between minors. It in fact was not a part of the contemplation at the time. It somehow ended up being drafted in a way that caused it to be interpreted in that way, and I agree that it does. But we have carried on for some time. We've sort of dragged this error into the 2026.
But error or not, criminologist Dr. Jason Mackay reasons the current law protects many minors from sexual exploitation by the gangs and from being killed after reporting sexual abuse by minors in gangs too.
When you report forced sex and you live in a garrison, that's met with murder and arson. So if you plan to move out to the community, then go in that direction. Because that's where it's going. You're not going to report a member of a gang for forcing you to have sex with them and expecting you're going to remain living there. Now, we're not an immigrant group. We've been here for hundreds of years. Therefore, the families in these communities are extremely large. So you can't say, okay, we're going to extract the female from this community so she can give evidence and so on. She can't give evidence. She can't participate. Because if we remove her, they kill our family. And if we move the direct family, they go to the wider relative.
He hopes the committee considers the people in these garrisons exposed to certain risks if sex between minors is decriminalized and the age gap changes. The judiciary is grappling with the sudden loss of one of its senior members. Chief Justice Brian Sykes says the passing of Parish Court Judge Sasha Marie Ashley has deeply shaken the institution. Kevin Black has the details.
The judiciary is in mourning following the passing of senior parish court judge for Hanover, Sasha Marie Ashley. She served in Hanover, St. James, Clarendon and Westmoreland, earning a reputation for distinction, compassion and an unwavering commitment to justice. Chief Justice Brian Sykes says her death has deeply shaken the judicial family.
This tragedy is made all the more painful by the fact that her life and judicial career were still unfolding, marked by great promise, purpose, and service. Many among us worked closely with her, learned from her, and were inspired by her dedication to the administration of justice.
Throughout her years of service, Chief Justice Sykes says Judge Ashley was known for striking a balance between firmness and fairness, qualities that earned her the respect of litigants, attorneys, court staff, and colleagues alike. Beyond the bench, she was regarded as a warm and vibrant presence within the judiciary.
Judge Ashley was an outstanding judicial officer who served the people of Jamaica with distinction, compassion, and an unwavering commitment to justice. Throughout her service in Hanover, St. James, Clarendon, and Westmoreland, she demonstrated an admirable balance of firmness, fairness, and humanity. Qualities that earned her the respect of litigants, attorneys at law, court staff, and her judicial colleagues.
The judiciary has also acknowledged the emotional impact of her death on judges and court staff across the island. Kevin Black for CVM News.
We take a break. Stay with us.
You see me? Me love my food and my ketchup run the flavor in so many ways. Miss Powers, I want to turn up your food, sir.
My secret ingredients, Charles tomato ketchup run the
Charles ketchup run the flavor. Richer, thicker, and more affordable. Chicken boss, what run the flavor?
Charles tomato ketchup.
Ketchup! Cal's tomato ketchup, run the flavor, richer, thicker, and more affordable!
The KFC value menu has you thinking chicken. Get the famous meal combo for just $640. The time by KFC is
7:30.
The internationally acclaimed On Stage with Winfred Williams.
At a new time, Saturdays at 8 p.m. on CVM TV.
So much more than entertainment.
Hey, what I want?
Hi, I am Candy Pang.
What I want?
What a guan?
That I want, pa. What I want? What I want?
What a guan? Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 8 a.m., 1:30 p.m., and 10 p.m. on CVM TV.
And that's a guan, pa. What a guan?
Thanks so much for staying with us. Still in the local news. During Monday's cross-examination, witness number 11, a former member of the CTOC flying squad, faced intense questioning over a September 2018 planned operation in Crossroads targeting a suspected post office robbery. Attorney John Clark, representing alleged Clansman gang leader Tesha Miller, sought to probe whether the police followed proper procedures when taking statements. Carla Ramdeen was in court.
The cross-examination of the prosecution's 11th witness about a September 2018 operation in Crossroads to foil a possible robbery at the post office continued on Monday. At the time, the witness was a part of CTOC's flying squad and said intelligence prompted the deployment that led to the arrest of 3 men. The witness underwent a lengthy cross-examination by attorney John Clark, who represents Tesha Miller, the alleged leader of the Clansman gang. Mr. Clark sought to clarify the witness's testimony and determine whether events that took place in 2018 were consistent with police code of conduct. The defense started by seeking clarity as to how the statements were taken and how interviews were conducted at CTOC when the suspects were brought in. Mr. Clark asked if the time was noted when the statements were being recorded. The witness said he could not recall, but Mr. Clark accused the witness of being disingenuous. The defense then went on to question the witness about the content of the statements and if they included questions asked by the police and answers given by the suspects, but the witness said he could not recall. In response, Mr. Clark asked if the witness could be allowed to look at the statements, but the prosecution objected. The objection was upheld on the grounds that the witness could not refresh his memory on any notes that he was not the author of. The defense attorney went on to ask the witness if an officer failed to record the entry of the exchange between the suspect and themselves, how it would be vetted. The witness told the court that he would still vet the interaction and may question the type of statement taken in some instances. The defense asked if proper records would assist the witness in doing so, but that line of questioning was objected. Attorney Clark told the court that this line of questioning was crucial to the defense's case, as it aimed to establish best practices within the force and examine how deviations could create a ripple effect internally. But the prosecution emphasized that the focus should be on what happened at Crossroads. Later on the cross-examination, the witness told the court that the 3 men admitted they were at Crossroads to commit a robbery, but they provided straight statements. As a result, they were not charged. The defense suggested that basic police training would alert officers that a straight statement from a suspect may be insufficient to lay charges. The witness agreed, noting that this was why no charges were laid. The defense further suggested that taking straight statements was done to facilitate intelligence gathering, but the witness disagreed. When asked whether prescribed procedures allowed statements to be taken purely for intelligence purposes, the witness again disagreed. The witness confirmed that straight statements from criminal suspects cannot be used to charge them. The prosecution indicated that the line of questioning by the defense was not relevant to the central issue of the 2018 operation. Carla Ramdeen, CVM News.
A local entrepreneur is proving that passion and perseverance can turn a dream into a thriving business. In tonight's edition of Small Biz Big Dreams, our reporter Kevin Black steps inside a wellness brand that has been serving clients for more than 17 years, built on consistency, customer care, and a commitment to self-care.
Small Biz Big Dreams is brought to you by Access Financial Services. Tonight, on Small Biz Big Dreams, we step into a world of wellness, relaxation, and self-care. This is Small Biz Big Dreams. Juliet Thompson has spent the last 17 years building her brand in the beauty and wellness industry. Her business, MJ Body Concept and Spa, has become a go-to spot for clients seeking body treatments, skincare services, and total relaxation. She says what started as a love for helping people look and feel their best quickly turned into a full-time business.
Well, I used to work somewhere else before, and I decided to just go out on my own and start business basically. I decided to branch out because I wanted to be able to have more control over what is being done or what was being done to clients. Where I was before, it was just like one size fit all. Everybody got the same thing. So I decided to be customized. I have customized services for my clients. What we do is, as I said, it's not a one size fit all. We would analyze the skin, see what is happening, and then we would recommend a regimen for you to follow.
Over the years, she has expanded her services to meet the growing demand for professional spa treatments while maintaining a personal touch with each client. She says consistency and customer care have been key to her success.
I am with a particular bank, and trying to get funding from them was just so difficult. It was so difficult. Another friend of mine told me about Access, and that is how I started. They basically helped me to get in my equipment, get the products rolling, all of that. Here is our deep pore facial cleanser and the purifying toner. So you would use these two together. This is the moisturizer that you would use. So you would wash with the cleanser, use the toner on cotton and wipe. Then this is your moisturizer, and then this is our Youth Boost facial oil.
For aspiring entrepreneurs, Juliet says passion, patience, and proper training are essential in the beauty industry. She encourages young business owners to stay focused and never give up, even when challenges arise.
Oh my God, you would have to be very determined, very tenacious. Don't give up. You can't be easily swayed. You'd have to be just focused and just make sure that whatever you are doing, you do it to the best of your ability at all times. We're located at 5-7 Roosevelt Avenue, and that's near to the National Stadium and Stanton Terrace. Our number is 876-281-0278.
Next week, we'll meet Shauna Lee, a castor oil specialist who's making oil on Jamaican soil. Until then, for Small Biz Big Dreams, I'm Kevin.